Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 58 of Superannuated Starman. I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and today I'm joined again just with Cory Braucks. Cory, how are you doing?
Buongiorno!
We are back yet again, and we're going to be discussing Rampart for the Sega Genesis. Now, this title was on so many different systems, but we're going to be talking specifically about the Sega version. We might talk about the arcade just for comparison here and there, but for the most part, that's the title we played, so that's what we're going to be discussing. So, with that very short introduction, it's going to be a very short episode. So, with that in mind, take a break, enjoy this music, and when we come back, we're going to discuss the history of Rampart. Before the tower defense genre became a casual juggernaut in the early 2000s, Atari was developing a game that would combine a variety of genres and pack it all into a game where the player alternates between building their defenses and then staving off the increasingly dangerous opponent. Originally releasing in Japan as a arcade-only trackball game, in Rampart, players build and maintain walls around their castles, aka ramparts, in an effort to expand their territory while strategically placing cannons to defeat invading ships. I don't have any definitive release dates here, but it seems that it was sometime in 1990 and 1991 that the game and its ports arrived on the scene. The game starts off with the computer automatically placing a wall around one of your castles. During this build phase, you can also place cannons within those walls, like I mentioned just a moment ago. Immediately following the build phase is the combat phase, in which you are firing upon those ships while they are doing the same to you, trying to destroy your walls and destroy your castle. Gameplay then flips back to the build phase, in which you are given Tetris style pieces to fortify those walls. However, these pieces may not always be the most strategically shaped, but you have to make do with what you've got, and you're running on a very short timer. Your territory must be completely surrounded by walls with no gaps, otherwise, the player loses the battle if there is not at least one castle completely encircled by walls at the end of the build phase. The original arcade version of the game supported 3 players, but this was scaled down to 2 for most ports. And this thing was ported to nearly everything of the time: DOS, Mac, Commodore 64, SNES, Master System, the Genesis, Game Boy, the NES, and the list goes on. Despite simplistic graphics and rudimentary gameplay, Rampart went on to influence the tower defense genre that we see today. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton for this history segment because this game just wasn't that popular back in the day. And with that, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to hear Cory's childhood memories. Welcome back, everybody. This is the memory section where we discuss what it was like to play this game back in the day. Unfortunately, this is yet again another title that I did not play as a kid. I'd never even heard of this game until Cory mentioned it to me and I got my hands on it. So I've got nothing. I really hope that you have a lot to say, Cory, because you're going to be running this entire segment.
I do have a fair bit to say, and I will start by saying that during the history segment, you mentioned that this game is kind of like the progenitor tower defense game. That never crossed my mind. Even as of a week ago, I probably wouldn't have even classified this like in a category. Like I couldn't think of a genre to put this in. And you mentioned like tower defense games, and as I'm sitting here playing this, I'm going like, wow, this is basically a tower defense game. I did it kind of blew my mind to think about like this is one of the earliest versions of a tower defense that I could kind of point a finger to. And in the same way that tower defenses are both frustrating and kind of addicting, Rampart's the same way. And as a child, I never owned a copy of this. My uncle had this game, and anytime we went to his house, I would be pushing to play this title because it's very fun, it's very pick up and play accessible, and it has a versus mode to it. And basically, the concept of this game is there's four nodes, and you pick one of the nodes, and that determines your starting castle. And the game generates a castle, and I'm sure there's like some sort of preset amount of patterns that it comes out with. But usually you have space for, say, 10 cannons. The smallest tile that you can build is a 1 by 1 square. And then I think the biggest one you can have is either the weird Z shape or it's like the horseshoe slash C shape. And those are taking up somewhere in the range of like 6 to 8 squares, I want to say. So there's a lot of weird Tetris style pieces in this game. And essentially any 2 by 2 square can fit a cannon in it. So what you want to do is you basically have this X amount of time where you get to build up your fortification and repair your walls, and you kind of want to start creating all these little pockets that have 2 by 2 squares in them where you can cram cannons. And what gets hard is as the game progresses and the enemies start bombarding your walls and stuff, you start to get fires started where you can't build on that tile anymore, and you start getting these weirdly shaped pieces that are thrown at you, and it kind of screws up your whole feng shui, and you start losing more and more space. So it really becomes this challenge of micromanaging the stuff being thrown at you in these 10 to 15-second windows, and then having to bombard this ever increasing like wave of enemy boats, and then they'll have like cannons that land, and they'll start taking over all the other little castles on the map. And it becomes very, very challenging as the game goes on, and it's really unforgiving too. If you start falling behind, like you fall behind. There was a point where I was playing um just today, even because I kind of wanted to give myself a refresher. This is a little bit of a last minute episode. I was playing and I built myself up this little fortress, and I had like 12 cannons, and then I had this extra little building that had 2 cannons in it, and they blew up my wall. And I lost those 12 cannons because I couldn't fix all the wall. And so, like, round 4, I had like 12 boats in the water firing at me, and I just had 2 cannons remaining from like the little partition that I managed to save. And it was like, well, this is game over. There's no way I'm gonna be able to salvage this damage. So, I mean, as a kid, that was like the thing that was appealing, is like this random element combined with this weird Excel spreadsheet style gameplay of puzzle solving that really spoke to like the ADHD neurodivergent weird kid that I am. And I was just always like pressuring people to play this with me. I was like, come on, like let's play Rampart. Like I'll be this guy, you could be the red guy, like we'll shoot cannons at each other. And they're just like, no, Cory, that game's not that great. And it's like, well, I'm gonna shoot cannons, so you're gonna sit down and play with me for a half hour. It was just a lot of me pressuring family members into playing versus mode. And, and then, when we're doing the history of this, we found out that the arcade version had 3 players. And honestly, if I could play 3 player at home, I think this game would have been so much better because, as I said with the single player, when you play versus mode, what you want to happen is for you both to like sort of build up and have this cool fortress and have like volleys of 30 cannons going at each other. But in reality, what happens is one of you ends up getting a bunch of horrible Tetris pieces and can't fix your wall in time. And then the other guy proceeds to just obliterate you. And within 3 rounds, it's like 30-on-2. And that's usually how versus mode goes. And I think if you had 3 players, it would really change the dynamic because you couldn't ignore the other guy. It would be sort of that triangle defense at that point where you'd have to like really start weighing your options. I think it would make for a much longer game. But as a kid, this was just one of those weird titles where it was like it was there and it was like in a bin, and whenever I fished it out, it was just kind of this exciting, you know, fast paced, very frenetic kind of thing where it was like, shoot the cannons, build the walls, save the fortress. Oh, boats, boats, boats everywhere. Oh, they're landing cannons. They're marching up the coast. Oh, they're going to destroy everything. No. And so that was just kind of what happened in the psychotic 8-year-old mind of myself. And that's really what my childhood was like. So thank you for going down this weird trip with me.
I can't tell you how big the smile on my face was when you were talking about what it was like playing versus mode where you have this overwhelming army versus 2 cannons,
Oh yeah.
which I think would be so funny. I mean, it would be frustrating when you're younger, but as an adult, I think that would be just hilarious to experience.
Well, I was gonna say, and that's why no one wants to play, because as soon as you get good enough to become the 30 on 2 guy, like no one wants to be put in that position.
So I was gonna save this for the next segment, but you know what? Actually, I am gonna save it for the next segment. I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna hold off. So, is there anything else you wanted to discuss about your childhood memories?
No, I mean it was just one of those weird throwaway titles. Like I don't think this was I'm sure this probably had some like crappy like color ads in Nintendo Power or something, but it was just another one of those weird like back of the bin type of thing, like gauntlet or columns or like whatever. It like there's clearly not much to this game, It's kind of like Joust or Missile Command or something. It's very
Yeah.
simplistic, but it was just fun.
And at the time, that's all games had to be. They just had to be fun. They didn't have to be pretty. They didn't have to sound great. They just had to be fun.
Oh, and then there was a in the Genesis version, I found out that this game, depending on the port, changes wildly. We were looking at screenshots. The artwork is the main thing. If you look at this thing on a Commodore or a arcade cabinet, looks gorgeous. You look at it on a Genesis or maybe a Super Nintendo, looks fine. You look at it on some of the other things, like we found out this came out on Famicom, looks like garbage. So
It is
we
rough.
were looking at that, but one thing is on the Genesis is that there's a voice guy too, and he's like this soldier, like your sergeant at arms or whatever. And when the round ends, it's like cease fire or build phase. It's just like I remember that happening constantly too. So it's just one of those other like weird sound bites, like we were talking about NBA Jam, like he's on fire. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those things where like you're constantly hearing this guy's voice in your head when you're playing this game.
Again, it's something I wish I could go back and experience as a child, but can't go back. But what we can do is that we can take a break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss what it was like to play this game in the modern era. So stick around. Welcome back, everybody. So we played Rampart today. I played the Sega Genesis version, and I read the manual. Corey, I read the manual first
Oh
before I started playing this game, and it does not prepare you for how
no,
frantic it is. And there's no in-game tutorial. I'm talking about the Sega Genesis version here.
there's nothing in the arcade either. I'm sure this thing 8 quarters.
It must have, because you just start the game, the computer builds the wall around whatever castle you select, and then it's just game on. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. How does this work? Especially the build phase when I got those Tetris pieces, and I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, you
It
had no
was
idea. Like
so hard.
I saw a guy play this. I watched like a let's play. The dude went through like 6 levels, dying repeatedly before he realized he could even rotate them. And he found out he could rotate them because like the uh like when you let the game idle, it kind of shows the little like cutscene of the game
Yeah,
playing on it.
yeah.
Yeah, he's like, wait, they can rotate? Because it showed like the guy rotating it during the little gameplay cinematic.
That was something that kinda got me too. Even again, I read the manual, but you just kind of forget everything in that literal, like, 10-second span that you have to fix everything that was just wrecked. And You know what? I really enjoyed the gameplay despite how frustrating it was at first. And maybe frustrating is not the right word, but I really wish that there was an option to maybe expand the time for your build phase
Oh
or
yeah.
something along these lines so that maybe I can get a little bit better before I'm thrown to the wolves.
Or play versus the dummy fort, like a training mission or something.
Yeah, a tutorial mission would have been fantastic, but that was not what happened here.
Yeah, so let me ask you, did you make the mistake of picking like a coastal base as your first option?
I picked the one that was well, my very first game, I picked the one that was at the bottom left, and it
Okay.
was, yeah, unfortunately rather close to the coast.
Yep. So the problem that you run into when you play this game is that if you pick something that's like, because there's four options for building your base, and the nice thing is when you pick something closer to the water, your shots go for your shots take less time to get to the target. So like there's less time for them to dodge when they start moving. The problem is though is that a lot of these weirdly ass shaped pieces
Don't fit.
don't fit around the coast, so you end up get this weird C-shaped brick, and it's like, oh, I can't fix my wall because this stupid ass piece won't fit here.
Yeah, that was definitely a frustration because I too was that guy that didn't realize that I could rotate my pieces,
Okay.
especially because I got a lot of initial ones where it was just a singular
Yeah,
block.
square or a line or something.
Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, okay, this is super easy. I get it." And then I got the like S
Yeah,
shape.
the weird Tetronimo.
Yeah, I was like, "What the hell do I do? Where do I? No, I don't. Okay." And now I'm dead. It's game over.
You sit there looking at it for 5 seconds, trying to figure out where to put it, and then it's like, build phase over, and you're like, what am I gonna do?
There's no stopping it. You're just immediately thrust back in the
Oh
action,
yeah.
which is exciting, is fun, but I wanted to know what I was
Oh
doing.
yeah, dude, I was playing it when you were at lunch. There were so many points where I like the timer was at 0 and I'm frantically trying to shove one more brick into my build because I'm like if I don't close this gap, I'm dead.
And that's such a weird way to like equate winning or losing. You would think that like the destruction of your castle would be
Oh yeah.
the
But
end
it,
game.
it's like this counts as the destruction of your castle because now you have this huge hole in the wall and you can't plug it up and there's soldiers pouring in.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But still, it was
Oh
man.
yeah, I know. It's real frustrating. It's a lot of fun though.
It took me several rounds to figure out exactly what I was doing. And by then, I just kind of figured out like, okay, the best way to do this is to get one of the castles that's much further back. And that way I can kind of defend it the best and then try to expand into another castle and get that territory open. And then from
One of the
there,
other things that you might not have known is that you don't technically need that second castle to start building new rooms.
what?
So if you want to just make another square on your square and segment off another section, like that's why I had two cannons available when I was telling you like where I lost the big room and I had the little room still because I just built this little subsection that could fit like a 2x4 basically, and I could slam two more cannons down in like a panic last ditch effort to get another round in.
Okay, I would love to see like some in-depth strategy laid
Oh,
out, like
I'm
a
sure there's some
spreadsheet,
weird
from
guide somewhere.
yeah, I bet there's something on Reddit where it's just this step by step how to most effectively create your
Yeah,
rampart
it's like, oh,
walls.
you want to make sure that you use your line pieces to like bisect your walls. That way you have these little portions. Like, yeah, whatever, nerds. But yeah, no, some of the other like interesting things about this though is when the build phase is over, the game will sort of try to auto clean the map. So if you had something like say you had an L shape, like a 1x2, and you slam that into your corner wall and you had this like one square hanging off the side of your building, the game will like clean the building and it will delete that one hanging piece. And it's both very useful because it cleans up your zone and it kind of removes stuff, especially stuff that might get inside your building, so that way you can put another cannon down. But the flip side of that is you might start trying to expand, and then it might clean up part of your expansion that you were unable to finish. So it's both. It's this real like weird double-edged sword as well.
Yeah, I noticed that right away too because I would try to kind of plan ahead. I'm like, okay, once I got good enough, I was like, all right, what I want to do is I want to expand out here. And then when I saw my pieces disappearing, I was like, no, that's not fair.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
already
like
you're already so
it
hard.
auto cleans the map.
The game is already so hard, and now you're taking away my resources. I was flabbergasted when I saw that. I really couldn't believe it. And you mentioned this before, like during the research and everything in the arcade, not only could you play 3-player, but the arcade game itself, the machine, the cabinet, they had a trackball.
Oh, that would have been so much more useful than a
Yes,
D-pad.
that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, I could kill for a trackball right
Yeah,
now
because
because the D-pad just is not it. It's not
yeah,
ideal.
so listeners at home, this game is played with a cursor basically. So the pieces are all dropped with a cursor. The cannons during the attack phase is done with a cursor. So when you're moving around with a D-pad, it's very inaccurate to try to line up your shots with all these boats and stuff that are coming in.
That's another aspect to it. We didn't really talk about this. There's different boats that have different levels of hit points as well.
Yeah,
And you have to really kind of plan out what you're doing because if you just focus on like, all right, this boat or that boat, you're going to end up missing one guy. He's going to slip through the cracks and he's just going to wreck your house.
one of the things in the early rounds, so like level 1 or whatever, I was being very conservative with my shots because each cannon can technically fire individually. So I was kind of like moving quickly, like shot, 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 and like trying to pick off the boats like as efficiently as possible. By like the second or third round, of the end of the second round, I had like 12 cannons and I was just mashing the attack button because there's just getting overwhelmed. It's like I have to clean this up. I have to get rid of these. These ones have red sails. Like when they shoot, if they hit my wall, like they set the tile on fire. These ones with like the cross on them, like they start landing units. These ones with the black sails have 2 hit points or whatever. It's like this sucks. Like you just start getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, you absolutely get overwhelmed very, very quickly in this game. And it's obvious that this game was not meant for extended play because there's no way playing single player you can do too much on a console.
Oh yeah,
Maybe in the arcade,
well,
but
even in the
not
arcade,
here.
like there's like 4 stages in the game entirely. And then there's like the hard mode, which gives you the bonus score. And it's still the same 4 stages. I just think they ramp the difficulty like exponentially. So it's an incredibly short title, but it's just so difficult that it just encourages replayability,
And it definitely has that.
especially with the random piece factor.
Yes, absolutely. And the random pieces just it adds a layer that you just do not expect to get with the game. Again, if I were designing this game for a modern audience, I would absolutely have a timer that can be adjusted and like the option to turn on or off certain pieces because whew,
Oh, I wouldn't remove pieces. I would let those people suffer like we did in the old days. But I think having a visible timer in general, both for the attack and the defense phases, like would just be so beneficial cuz sometimes you're just like I think there is one for the defense phase, but you're just not really paying attention to it. But the attack phase like you don't know how long it's going to be. It's like cease fire and it's like, "Oh, there's there's 6 boats in the water."
yeah. Oh, that's another aspect to it. You know, when you stop and you're building, you can see exactly what is coming for you.
Oh yeah,
There's no
like
surprise.
during the build phase, the guys that land, because stuff will get on the shore, right? During the build phase, if stuff lands on the shore, you'll see the cannons rolling up and taking out the other fortresses on the map that are unclaimed. They'll just roll up and start blowing up buildings. So like while you're sitting there trying to fix your stuff, like there's pieces that are moving during the build phase that will just destroy your map. And it's like, oh, now I have even less space to work with, and I have this goofy C shape. What am I supposed to do?
Die. That's the answer. You're
Exactly. It's
supposed to
like,
die.
well, guess I'll die. Like that's basically it.
That is absolutely it. It's the guess I'll die meme.
Yeah, it's just, but yeah, this I love this title just for no other reason that it's just such a crazy, frenetic, insane, just a exercise in futility, really, for the most part.
Well, man, I think that we've kind of talked about all we can for this. And instead of breaking to the music segment, which we didn't really talk about, but guys, the Sega
There's
Genesis
no
music,
music. There's no
it's
music.
not
It
great.
sucks.
It is not good. And I don't want to subject you to that. So let's just roll right into our final thoughts if you're okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, we're kind of there already.
For me, it's not bad, but it's not great. And it's great gameplay, it's a great concept, but there's just a lot of things that I would change if I could. Visually, it's not the prettiest game. The music, like we just said, is pretty bad. It's probably not something that I'm ever going to play again or maybe even think about, but I do wish that I'd played this as a kid because I think that if I had this game, I could have like built up the reflexes to be a grandmaster with literally any other game because you have to work so fast to get those pieces in the correct spot to defend your castle. Otherwise, you're done. It's game over. You're screwed.
Oh yeah, like we're talking about how this uses Tetris pieces. This is if you're playing Tetris and you were just shoved into like level 9 right off the bat. Like it's just very fast paced.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of strategy that goes into what you're doing. If you're just mindlessly placing pieces or even placing cannons, like I initially was, you are not going to last. You will not make it. You're going to get wrecked, and it's not going to feel fun at all. And so that's why I wish that there was this tutorial mode to kind of ease you into the gameplay because I could see a lot of people getting turned off by it, but
Oh yeah, you have to
it's
be
fun
prepared to lose.
and often and a lot and horrifically.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, I lost. No, you're going to get
No,
devastated.
the rounds literally the build phases last for anywhere from like 15 to 30 seconds, I think, depending on like what round you're on. The attack phases last like 10 seconds. You could lose a game in under 2 minutes. Like it's that fast. As far as my final thoughts are, I love this title. Am I gonna like sit here and play it on my, am I gonna dig out a Genesis or like play it on my computer or wherever? No. It's very mindless. It's very, like I said, it's very quick. There's nothing particularly special about it. That being said, if someone slapped this on a phone, we talk about like porting old games over to phones and stuff like that all the time. And I think Chris was one of like the big, kind of vocal people about like, I wish I could play this on my phone. Like if you put this on a phone, I would spend like $4 on it. Like it's just one of those things where, like I said, you could do this in 2 minutes. So if you're sitting there just trying to kill time while you're like waiting for the bus, or if you're, you know, on your lunch break or whatever. Like this would be a crazy fun title to just have access to on a cell phone. But as far as like sitting down in front of like a computer, or getting a console to play it, like no, there's no point in doing that.
Yeah, there's way too many other better games, and even games that did this better.
Yeah, I
But
mean this is a 35-year-old product at this point. It's not like and it was bare bones when it came out.
yeah, and that's absolutely true. It was definitely bare bones. But I wonder, I couldn't find any data on like how well this game sold. So I'd like to know, but I imagine it wasn't great. Oh, one thing I mentioned that I'd never even heard
Oh
of this
yeah.
game before, and it turns out that I had bought a combo pack of the Gauntlet Rampart for the Game Boy Advance years ago. It was cartridge only, so I didn't have the box,
Okay.
and it just lived in a box with other games, and I'd forgotten about it. But I was looking through my spreadsheet. Yes, I know it's nerdy. I have a spreadsheet of games because I was looking for Gauntlet, which is going to be our next title, and I saw Rampart, and I was
Theoretically.
I was like, theoretically, and I looked it up and I was like, what is this? And so I popped it into my Game Boy Advance that I have modded, and it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good,
That's
but
really funny.
it's such a smaller screen that it even makes it worse because now it's even more difficult.
Oh yeah,
to place
I
those
couldn't
pieces.
imagine trying to fire on a GBA.
No, I can't imagine this on a Game Boy, the original Game Boy, which this did come out on.
Wow.
Yeah, the monochromatic screen. What are you doing?
Oh, that would suck.
it's just it's impossible now.
No,
And
I mean,
I had
so
uh
well, sorry, I just keep
no,
cutting you
go
off
ahead.
today.
Go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, if you guys are just curious about what this looks like, so Hardcore Gaming 101 has a section on Rampart. If you just look at the image comparisons of like what they shoved this onto, so we've got arcade, we've got the original Nintendo, we've got the Super Nintendo regular, Super Nintendo Super, Game Boy Color, Master System, Atari ST, Genesis, Famicom, and Commodore 64. It just the degree of trash that this game has been like subjected to. It looks beautiful on the arcade. It looks really nice on the Commodore. I think it actually might look better on the Commodore than it does on the arcade. And
I
then like
agree.
the Genesis and the Atari look fine. The rest of them just look like hot garbage. It just like it just screams money grab.
Well, that's why I want to look at the sales data because I can't imagine that this game sold very well, but it was on everything of the time. So
It either
it was
had
out there.
it so the fact that it's so simple a title, it either had to be incredibly easy to like slap the code for this into a new machine, or it just had to sell well enough because there's no reason for them to put it into like 47 different machines. I mean, it had to be popular enough for them to just port it everywhere. Or it just had to be just so easy. Those are the only other options in my mind because there's no reason for them to do it otherwise.
Yeah, there's no reason. Well, Corey, do you have anything else for your final thoughts, or are you
No,
ready to
I mean,
close
like
this
I said,
out?
I like it, but it's nothing that you guys need to experience at home. It's just this weird little curio I thought you would enjoy playing.
I did. So thank you very, very much. I did enjoy my time with this game, but this is probably it. For all of those of you out there, thanks for listening. Again, and I said in the last episode, we're trying to stick to a better schedule, and we're going to try to do that going forward. Our next game may or may not be Gauntlet. That's kind of the tentative plan, but that could change. So until then, thank you very much, all of you out there listening. We've been Superannuated Starman.